trailer. Come in.
Oh.
Come in. Oh, you're fine. What is this? What is this walking behind the curtain?
A wet man.
Mark, not now. Hello YouTube, this is Adam Noyes of AM Productions, and welcome to this half episode of the Godzilla Vlogs, which of course is where we talk about anything and everything Godzilla. As I've stated before, half episodes will be dedicated to King Kong, or anything that isn't related to Godzilla that takes place in a Godzilla universe. So let's say in the Shin Godzilla universe they're making a Rodan movie. I would talk about that there in a half episode. So, without further ado, let's talk about that new Kong trailer. Usually don't do notes, you know? I just sort of talk out of my ass because these are vlogs, and vlogs aren't my reviews. Reviews, I take very detailed notes, and I'm just sort of talking out of my ass here. Let me make one thing very clear with this new King Kong trailer. This trailer was shit. That was a terrible, terrible, terrible trailer, ladies and gentlemen. I don't care what you say, that was a terrible, terribly, terribly put together trailer. But you know what? Movie looks like it's going to be fun, which, you know, it to me is a very key thing. You know, it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. It certainly will contrast a lot of the stuff that's going on actually in Japan right now with their Godzilla cinematic universe that they want to make, and so on and so forth, or even the anime that they want to make. That looks like it's going to be unbelievably dark, gritty. It looks like, well, you know what? You know what this looks like? This looks like a genuine Hollywood reboot. A Hollywood blockbuster, where it's going to be dumb, humans are going to be cardboard cutouts, and Kong is going to be the hero in the end of this. And this is really kind of confirmed with the Skull Crushers, I guess that's what they're called, according to Riley's character, John C. Riley's character, which I love those designs. That's so interesting that they all seem to be two-legged creatures, which I can't help but feel is definitely a homage to the two-legged dinosaur on the original 1933 King Kong. It was supposed to take place during the spider pit sequence, but then Jack Driscoll cuts the vine that it's climbing up on, only to then have Kong try to get him again. They remind me a lot of that, even in their design. They're not quite as dragon-like, these are definitely more outlandish than that. But that's what they kind of remind me of. And it's very interesting that these bugs, I'm going to call them bugs even though I'm sure they're not bugs, these things are coming out of the ground. What is it with Legendary Pictures, Godzilla Cinematic Universe, or whatever the fuck you want to call this? What is it with things and coming out of the ground? You had the Mutos in the first one, and now you have something coming out of the ground on this? Why can't you just have these things be indigenous to the island? What if these were evolved dinosaurs for the 1970s instead of these weird-ass radioactive bugs that come out of the ground? I really do sound like I'm being pessimistic here. I'm not. But here's the thing. I'm not excited to see this movie. I have no expectations going into this movie at all. And the reason why I have no expectations going into this movie, to put it bluntly, is because of Godzilla 2014. I still really like that movie, but it had such a weak script. Again, visually, editing-wise, you know, a very great, solid film, but the story was just so pathetically weak. This movie I'm expecting no different, not just because Max Bornstein is working on it, but also, and I think he's a terrible, terrible writer, but also because Kong Skull Island has like 20 million writing credits on. Not just 1, 2, or 3, but it has a bajillion. And on my other King Kong episode, I sort of discussed this, and I'm going to just reiterate it here. To me, a good script is written by 2, maybe 3 people, and not 800. Because when you have a lot of people working on the script, like on this film, you tend to have a lot of butting heads over what they want to take precedence in the film. And that can definitely be a huge, huge, huge problem. And I sincerely hope that King Kong doesn't have a really weak script, but as of right now, the way how I'm looking at it, yes, it's going to have an extremely weak script, and it's just going to be a Hollywood blockbuster that happens to have King Kong in it. And this has nothing to do with the fact that King Kong 33 and King Kong 05 are my two favorite movies of all time. This has absolutely nothing to do with that. This has to do with just the trends in Hollywood, especially for summer blockbusters, and how horrible summer blockbusters are now. And the other problem that I see in this movie, at least not in terms of the designs of the monsters or how the monsters move, we'll get into them a little later, but in terms of the acting and in terms of all this stuff, I see no passion in this movie. And maybe this is just because the trailer is terrible. Maybe this is just because I did not like the trailer. Again, this is my opinion. I don't take any of this as fact. This is just my opinion. I see no heart and soul in this movie. At least with Godzilla 2014, I saw a heart and soul behind it. Gareth Edwards genuinely gave a shit about that movie. And I believe a lot of the people that worked on Godzilla 2014 gave a shit about not only just the movie, but about Godzilla in general. I mean, it's God-fucking-Zilla. You think that people working on a King Kong movie would be way more excited to make a fucking King Kong movie than what we are seeing now. I do have a very pessimistic opinion on it, and I have no expectations for the movie. However, the one thing that I'm seeing genuine hope with this film is the fact that Kong looks like 33 Kong. He even has brown fur. A lot of people don't know it, but mainly because the film's in black and white, but the original armatures for King Kong weren't black. They didn't have black fur like an actual gorilla does. They were brown. Made out of rabbit's fur in particular. They were brown. And it's so interesting that Kong's fur in this new movie is brown, almost a reddish color, a very earthy color, no matter what you say. Definitely very earthy. And it's also funny that that was also the color of Kong's fur in King Kong Escapes, in which he also walks upright. And by the way, I always like that, but I like how his head is smaller than what an actual gorilla's would be, and so on and so forth. And a lot of people have said that they like the fact that he walks upright. I do too, because something that is very clear, the fact that this gorilla walks upright, this isn't a normal gorilla. This isn't just a giant 100-foot tall gorilla. Like for example, if Peter Jackson's King, if they basically just put Peter Jackson's interpretation of King Kong into this movie, where he's literally just a giant gorilla, and made him 100 feet tall, you know how silly that would be? I would laugh at that. Like, that'd just be silly. Again, that sort of interpretation definitely works in King Kong 05, in my opinion, but it wouldn't work for Kong Skull Island. So I'm happy that they made him walk upright. That genuinely made me really happy to see that, especially in that one glory shot. Man, that looks cool. The effects look genuinely good, and I really hope that Kong is mocap. I betcha he will be, knowing that they did some mocap on Godzilla 2014. But I really hope he's mocap, because Kong isn't a lizard. He's a mammal. Mammals have a lot more articulation in their face, which is why I think suitmation doesn't really work for mammals. Again, there are a couple exceptions to that. King Kong 76 being one of those exceptions, by the way. But I like the fact that he's walking upright. I just want to say this right now, in the Godzilla saga, my King Kong does also walk upright. Its design looks like the 33 design, but yet it's also walking upright, which makes it look kind of like a man in a suit. It's a great hybrid. The design of Kong is genuinely great. And I'm genuinely really excited for this. The question is, so we kind of see him beat his chest. It's not a very good angle, and it's not very well lit, so unfortunately I can't really see. I would like them to have it where Kong closes his fists and beats his chest, because it's a misnomer, because that's how the original Kong beats his chest, is he closes his fists. But it's a misnomer that that's how gorillas beat their chests. Gorillas actually don't beat their chests like that. Gorillas actually cup their hands like this, and they beat their chests open palm. Peter Jackson's King Kong is a hybrid of that, where it's kind of a mixture of the two. I'm generally excited to see this interpretation of Kong unfold on screen, and I want him to have a character, because you know what this is clearly building up to be, is that Kong is not the antagonist of this movie, and that those Muto-like two-legged dragon things that come out of the ground, Muto ripoffs, are the main antagonist. Which, you know what, again, I'm all over the place and I apologize, if those two-legged skull crusher things are somehow tied into the Mutos, I will not be as angry. as they would be, because maybe the Mudos would be this universe's interpretation of their own sort of monster, and stuff like that. It's very hard to explain, but it would be like this universe's own creation, like the main sort of overarching antagonist of this universe, which I don't think they're going to do that, because one, I don't think the creators working at Legendary are that smart, and two, we already have King Ghidorah confirmed. And if they make King Ghidorah a good guy, I will genuinely have my mouth drop. Not in a bad way, by the way. Not in a bad way. I'm afraid that Kong is going to basically be the same as Godzilla in Godzilla 2014. I'm 90% sure that Kong is definitely going to have more screen time, because despite the fact that I think the Legendary people aren't that smart, I don't believe they are that dumb to make that same mistake again. But here's the other thing that's probably going to come out of this. When we get a King Kong versus Godzilla movie, which, by the way, I hope they really put it in that order too, just as a homage to the original film. It's going to be like Batman v Superman. And now, I hate Batman v Superman. I do. I like that. That was literally one of the worst movies I've seen in a long time. But I like the ideas in it. I liked some of the ideas in it. The whole story of like two good guys battling it out because of differing ideologies, both right and both wrong, is an interesting idea. And I love movies that really play that up. I hope they play that up if they do a Godzilla vs. King Kong movie. I don't think that, I think that's what's going to happen. It's going to be two good guys that hate each other at the beginning, but end up teaming up together to fight the big bad foe. Whoever that foe is, we don't know yet. Maybe that'll be the grand finale, King Ghidorah. Though I'm pretty sure Rodan, Mothra, and King Ghidorah are already slated to be in the same movie together, which I think is a horrible, horrible, horrible mistake. And that's my problem with the Legendary series in general, is just that. They're throwing in too much at once. They're not taking their time. That's like one of the things that I love about Marvel, even though I don't really care about their films. They took their sweet-ass time getting things set up. The Legendary Pictures here seems to be coming up with things on the spot, at least with this film. I'm pretty sure after this film, things would be kind of gelled together and they'll start doing an actual cinematic universe. They're just throwing in too much at one time, and I'm just afraid that we're going to have a Batman v Superman syndrome where there's just so much going on that the film loses focus. And not like in the way that Godzilla 2014 did. I just mean in the way that there's just so much going on and so much happening and so much information being thrown at us at once that we're not going to be able to follow what's going on, and that for the time constraints of the film, sure, they can release an extended cut, but really all that matters is a theatrical cut, because that's the version we're all going to see first. It's just going to be very convoluted, and that's the very important word here, convoluted, because that's exactly what Batman v Superman was. Even the extended cut didn't help it at all. It's still like just a giant convoluted mess with no direction, and that's what I'm afraid this universe is going to lead to. And I'm also very afraid that these movies are just going to have the most generic plots ever, just because all the writers, specifically Max Borenstein, he needs to get off. He really needs to get off of these, because he is just such a cop-out writer. He just works for money, and that's the only reason there. He doesn't really have what I feel like to be a soul. A movie like this, and a movie like the more Godzilla films need to have a soul. I mean, that's one of the things that Shin Godzilla just exceeded at. That movie had a soul. That movie genuinely had passion behind it, and innovation behind it, and creativity behind it. It had two very competent directors working on the film, a very competent screenwriter, Hideaki Anno. There was just love in them. I'm getting none of that with what I'm seeing with King Kong. And again, this could be just because it's a terrible, terrible trailer. But I was going to actually, this video was supposed to be me focusing more on the Kong design, but I wound up being kind of a tirade on Legendary. But the trailer, you see, this is why the trailer's bad. The trailer just made it look like an Apocalypse Now ripoff. With 70s music playing, Vietnam, the color codes are even similar, where everything's sort of yellow. It's very similar to Apocalypse Now. It just made it look like an Apocalypse Now ripoff. Even John C. Reilly's character is clearly a ripoff of the man, his last name's Hopper, I can't remember his name. Dennis Hopper? Might be Dennis Hopper, don't quote me on that, but his character from Apocalypse Now. But you know what, maybe that's what they're going for. There's no doubt in my mind that they were definitely inspired by that, but I just want something intelligent. I want something that's not just going to milk something at me because they think I'm dumb. You know, just to play to the everyday audiences. I want them to do something very creative. I want them to do something new. I want them to blow my expectations out of the water. I really do. I want to be surprised with Kong Skull Island. I want to leave the theater when I see it and say, that was a good movie. Maybe not perfect. You know, nothing's perfect, I mean. But that was a damn good movie. And that's what I want from any film I go and see. Even Batman v Superman, I wanted to be a good movie, but I left the theater with no emotions at all. I just want this to be a good movie. I do. You know, at least the visual effects in this film are going to be good. At least the visual effects in this film are going to be really good. Again, Kong looks fantastic from what I've seen. Kong looks beautiful, actually. I love that design. But, you know, I just want to be happy with this film. I have no expectations for the film, really. I just want it to be good. That's all I really care about at this point. I wish I was more positive in this video, but unfortunately I'm not. So I'm sorry if that's what you wanted to hear, and you can dislike this video all you want. My opinion is still going to stand. And again, this is just my opinion. You can have your own. Tell me why you think I'm going to be wrong in the comments, like I'm sure you will. I'm genuinely interested in hearing all of your opinions on this. And I want to know if any of you have sort of the same fear as I do with the film. And if you guys see something that you really want to see, or something that you're going to really like. For example, even John Goodman is clearly a Bryan Cranston-like character in this movie. I'm pretty sure he's going to die within the first 20 minutes of the film. He's just like Bryan Cranston, which if he does, I'm going to be pissed because I love John Goodman. Even more than Bryan Cranston. Go on Facebook, like AN Productions for all up-to-date information there. Hit the subscribe button for more Godzilla vlogs. Go on Facebook, like the Godzilla Saga for all up-to-date information on how that's going. More information will be released shortly. And join Geeks for Geeks if you want to have really stupid and geeky conversations like what we have here, where you can promote stuff that you create and so on and so forth, and you will be welcomed with open arms. So, in the end, this is Adam Noyes of AN Productions saying, sayonara.